Hi guys, Sarah here and welcome to Novel Expectations. Today I'm going to review for you Trust No One, an anthology edited by Jonathan Maberry. So I finished this audiobook this week, and like I said, it was an audiobook. This was narrated by Bronson P. Shue and Hillary Hubbard. Both did absolutely brilliant jobs with the audio. I really liked them. I gave the book in total 3.5 stars. But I'd almost push it more towards a 4-star. It was really good. It was an X-Files anthology, for those of you who are unaware of the whole Trust No One, which is a tagline from the television show. So this was essentially 15 short stories, all taking place within the X-Files universe. I loved this book. I can't tell you how much I love this book, guys. Some of the stories I liked a lot better than others, of course. Some of them weren't that great, but overall, if you were a fan of the X-Files, I highly recommend that you check this out, either on audio or print book. Now, I was reading some of the reviews on Goodreads, and I can't speak to this because I do not have the physical book, but supposedly there was a lot of errors in editing with the physical book. There were a couple things that kind of stood out to me in the narration, like listening to the story itself, and I'll talk a bit about that as I get into this. So for this review, I am not actually going to review every single short story in the anthology, but what I am going to do is I picked 5 books. Actually, they were all the books that I gave either 5 stars or 4 stars to, and I'm going to let you know what I thought about them and why I gave them that rating. So let's jump right in and get started. So the very first short story that I loved was called Dusk, and it was by Paul Crilly, and I gave it 5 stars. This was essentially a kind of homage to Twilight. And for those of you who know me, who have been watching my channel, know I'm not a fan of Twilight. I attempted to read the book, and I just didn't care for it. But I thought this was such a great kind of, like I said, homage to Twilight itself. I mean, Twilight, it's about vampires, and I mean, this is the X-Files. This is what they deal with, is paranormal. So essentially the plot of the story is that these young girls are going missing from this small town. And they think that this vampire, the Edward type character in Twilight, is looking for a mate or a wife. And these girls think that he's real and that it's going to be them, and they go to the woods to meet him, and they wind up dead. The author of these books, and the books themselves are called Dusk, lives in the town. He is a cranky old man. Not at all what you'd expect to have read or written something like a Twilight-type story. And it is an absolute fantastic story. It really spoke to me because my favorite X-Files episodes were always those ones that were a little off-center. And I know a lot of the episodes, like the whole series to a lot of people, might have been just a little off-center. But the ones that are even extra goofy, if I can use that terminology, the ones, for those of you who were fans of the X-Files who might know what I'm talking about, are the ones like the Cops episode. Or the ones that were, there was one, and I can't remember the name of it now, but they're telling their story to a journalist, and he's writing it down, and you get Mulder and Scully's different perspectives. And I mean, just those ones that were a little goofy, a little silly, that's exactly what this one was like, and I really loved it. The second short story I'm going to talk to you guys about was called Paranormal Quest, and it was by Ray Garton. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was a lot of fun. It was about a young girl who ended up dying in her home after her heart exploded. Now, that's strange, but the even stranger thing was that they were filming a television show in the house called Paranormal Quest, where they go in, they put hidden cameras in, and they're essentially looking for paranormal activity. So this story plays out. It's a lot of fun. The author did a fantastic job on the characters. This one was pretty gruesome too. I mean, not only did you have a heart exploding, but there were heads that exploded too. So yeah, it was gruesome to say the least, but I still really enjoyed it. So the next story I'm going to talk about is It's All in the Eyes by Heather Graham. I gave this one 4 stars. Now, for those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, know I am a huge fan of Heather Graham. And I really had high hopes for this story. And unfortunately, because of one thing that she kept doing, I had to knock it down a star rating because I feel to have read or written a story for this anthology, you needed to be an X-Files fan. And I read an interview with her in that she said that she was. But maybe it had been some time since she read a story. So I'll tell you about the story first of all. And pretty much what it's about are these dolls, like these Halloween corpse type dolls that are that move on their own, and they're essentially killing people. Really, really interesting, really fun story. My issue with it was, and for those of you who watch the X-Files might know this one, when Mulder and Scully were talking to each other, they called each other by their first name. That happened maybe a half a dozen times in the entire run of the series, in 9 years. They never called each other by Dana and Fox. It was always, Scully and Mulder. So that kind of really bothered me, and I couldn't get past it. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I don't know. It bothered me enough that I had to knock down a star rating. But then again, I am a huge fan of the X-Files, so maybe someone who's not as much of a fan, it wouldn't bother them. But it did bother me, so. The next story I want to talk about is called The House on Hickory Hill, and this was by Max Allan Collins. And this one I gave 5 stars to. This one was fantastic. It was about a haunting in a house. And the house is in a town not at all unlike Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch hangings took place back in 1692. Yeah, this just was bleeding walls, voices, footsteps, the whole creep factor, fantastically written. I absolutely loved this short story. And the last one is Statues by Kevin J. Anderson, and this one I gave 4 stars to. Kevin J. Anderson was pretty much a guarantee that I was going to give his short story a really good rating, because he wrote, from what I remember, the original X-Files novels back when the TV show was still on the air. I think one of them was called Ground Zero, and I can't remember the name of the other one. Doesn't matter. But he is a phenomenal sci-fi writer. This story was about a man who is a sculptor who lives in Death Valley all by himself in this house, and how he creates these very lifelike looking sculptures. And it's très creepy. Very, very creepy. Mulder and Scully are in perfect, like Kevin J. Anderson writes them so well. You know he's been writing them for so long. I can't remember if he actually wrote any of the scripts for the television show or not. I want to say that he did, but maybe he didn't. Doesn't matter. Like, you can hear the banter between them as if you were watching it on the television screen. It was absolutely wonderful. So, again, guys, if you're an X-Files fan, please give this anthology a try. Like I said, the narration, the audio book was fantastic. I only paid $5 for it because it was a Kindle Daily deal back in January, before the X-Files came back on the air. So that's when I picked it up. But if you are a fan, check it out anyway. Totally worth it. It's like 15 hours long, so it's a good, bang for your buck, essentially. And you are getting all these little short stories. Now, some of them I really didn't care for. I don't think I gave any 1-star ratings. I might have given a 1.5-star rating. There were a couple 2 stars. Some of them were just a little, no, that wasn't for me. But then again, it's just like watching the television show. There were always some episodes that you liked more than others, right? But anyway, yeah. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts below. Were you an X-Files fan like I was? And if you were, what was your favorite episode? I loved the Krychek episodes. Like I said, the Cops episode I really enjoyed. All the ones that were a little goofy are the ones I really, really enjoyed. But anyway, come talk to me below, and I will talk to you guys in my next